Welcome, Jose Jaime Guerrero, to our show once again. And now we've got Are Women Better at Friendship Than Men?
Wow.
And I think it's a kind of, it's a little bit controversial, maybe title, and provocative intentionally. But I really kind of, in my experience, I feel like it's almost a given. But I'm so curious to hear what you have to say on this topic. I guess, first of all, yes, thank you for being on the show. And I skipped the whole thing. Here we go. Jose blends his 14 years expertise and as a registered clinical counselor with over 30 years of chartered accounting financial background to promote and reach self-worth development and financial well-being as a twofold related outcome. He works with individuals, couples, and groups. So thank you for being on the show, Jose.
Thanks to you, Glenn. My pleasure.
Okay, thank you. And so first of all, do you in fact believe that women are generally better at having friendships than men? If so, why or why not? Because I should get that first question out of the way.
Of course. And I'm going to, as I tell to my clients when I work with them, I'm going to take risks. Mm-hmm. And it always helps.
Okay.
I will say the majority of the times. And I'm going to say overall, yes, definitively. And there's a reason for that. And the reason is very simple. I consider myself a feminist. Mm-hmm. I am an advocate for women's rights and freedom. I have a daughter, mm-hmm. and I have been single dad for many years. So. However, the power of biology is there, and how we have evolved as human beings is something that we cannot discard. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Things have changed a lot in the last 50, 60, 70 years, but we had been around for 40, 50,000 years. And during that time, we had very specific roles that are embedded in our systems. And one of the reasons, one of the main roles that women have done in this group of primates that evolved towards human beings is to keep the bonding and the connection of the group.
Yeah.
So I believe that the other day, I on purpose, I decided to watch the interactions of women and men, and they are very different. Women get together and they talk. They talk a lot. They talk about what is happening in their lives, and they share experiences and then strategize together, and they share emotions. Men, not that much. When I ask women in my private practice or in my practice, when I ask them, how is your support group? Usually they said, it's good. I have friends and I talk with them and I know that they are there for me. What I ask men is, how's your support group? It's okay. I have my buddies. I never talk about really what are the things that worry me with them. My main support group is my wife. So yes, I think that women are wired biologically and socially as a group to bond better. Now, if we talk about the biology of women have the capacity to nurture. Women don't. We could be nurturing, but we cannot feed a child. We cannot carry them in our wombs for 9 months. So we have to recognize these different capacities, and I think that makes women more skilled in connecting and developing relationships.
So even when you just said support group, say the phrase support group to men or to women, you might get two different reactions.
Very different for you. You're right. You're so right.
Support group. Oh my gosh, you need a support group because you're obviously an alcoholic. You're obviously addicted to this or drugs or whatever it is. That's why you need a support group.
Or I don't need support.
Yeah.
I'm strong.
Well, strength and that's so. Yeah.
The misconception of strength.
Yeah, it's really primal to me. It's very kind of cavemanish to think that we still haven't. I don't know. Is it a generation thing, you think? Like, are your younger clients?
I think so. I think so. I think that things are changing, and I see that men are more open towards this exploration of vulnerability and what really strength means, and how important is to be able to connect with their emotions. I think that things are changing, particularly in the new generations, for sure.
That's good.
Which is very good news, yeah.
Because on one hand, younger people in general are having a harder time with friendship because of all the texting and the lack of, face-to-face contact in the social media. And that affects men and women. So, but just generally, I guess, younger women still socialize better and make better friends outside of the digital media kind of stuff.
I agree.
So is there something, in terms of breaking down this into friendship skills, frequency of contact, I'm guessing that plays a part in being, I don't know, do you find women get together with women more often in your experience?
I think so.
So that's already in their favor. So,
of course.
Okay.
And because they recognize that they need it.
Yeah.
It's part of their modus operandi and their belief system. Men, we have to recognize that we are more wired since we're very young, to be strong, to be self-reliant, to provide, to be on our own, to be strong. And I think that concept of strength is misunderstood.
Interesting. It almost makes me think that then a man without a support system might be more emotionally well-balanced than a woman without a support system, because a man's almost like support system is a bonus or something. No, not necessarily. Maybe.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. There might be that belief, but actually, human nature is human nature, and as I've mentioned before, we are wired to connect. We are our survival has depended for thousands of years in our capacity to work as groups, in our capacity of bonding. So the fact that no, I don't need that because I'm a man and I grew up differently, etc. At the time when you take that to how we function as human beings, I think it's a belief that it's not that valid. We all need support systems.
Okay. And in terms of the other conversations, friendship skills, I think of conversation skills, obviously, right? But nobody's born with conversation skills. So in terms of human evolution, how does that work with women just having better conversation skills? Is it because of the frequency? Or?
No, I don't think it's necessarily frequency. I think that you touch upon a very relevant topic, which is communication. One of the things that I have seen as one of the main reasons, actually according to research, the main reason for divorce, for separation in relationships, is communication. And just as a reference for you, I don't know if you have heard about this, but in Canada, approximately from the 100% of people that get married, an average of 48% divorce. And the reason number one is communication. The reason number two is money, according to research. So I think that the most important skill in developing a good friendship, a good relationship, is communication. And there are 4 elements that are extremely important in the communication process and in developing this skill. And the number one is the ability to express situations, particularly when they are uncomfortable, as facts.
Okay.
Rather than you didn't do, you always, you never, which we tend to do when we are upset, is, this happened.
Yeah.
Boom. Just a simple fact. So that a skill of remain objective when you're upset and to express things in an objective fashion is extremely important in being able to connect with others in a functional way. Now, after expressing the fact, we can say, okay, that fact make me feel. And this is very important because it forces us to connect with what we are experiencing. And that connection, that identification leads to validate what we are feeling. And that diffuses the energy of emotions. The emotions that we most experience as humans are anger and anxiety. They are very common. What is fascinating is that both of them are secondary emotions. So what happens when we go deeper and we identify what are the primary emotions that are driving our anger, our anxiety? And then we say, well, no, I'm not angry, I'm hurt. Or no, I am not anxious, I am fearful. It's very different. So the skill of recognizing and expressing our feelings is extremely important in order to validate them and in order for the other person to know what is happening. Because, there's this myth in the romantic concept of love that the other person should know what is happening here.
Of course.
And guess what? Bad news, that doesn't happen. So we need, by identifying and telling how we need, how we feel to the other party is very important. And I believe also that one skill that it's very relevant in the development of communication is expressing our needs. So I felt this way because what I was needing, which was, I don't know, presence or acceptance or validation or whatever we need, was not met. So when we express our needs and when we develop that skill, we're telling the other person what really we need. So the other person doesn't have to guess, and we tend to do the same when the other person is having a difficult time. Regrettably, this concept of asking for what you need is being selfish is quite popular out there, but actually it's very important because, as I mentioned before, when we are very careful of meeting our needs, we're going to be happier, and we're going to value that also in others. So I will say that developing these skills helps a lot to enhance our communication and to connect. And with this, we go to the first point, which is bonding.
So, very well said, by the way. You make me think of emotional intelligence. These sort of key factors of emotional intelligence, of knowing your emotions, expressing them, being in tune,
being aware,
being in tune. And then I think of self-help books, again, at the back of the bookstore. And even just, because I don't want to make too many assumptions here, but just hosting my Meaningful Discussions events, it's mostly women that show up. And this is 6-7 years now.
In my practice, the same. So you're not alone in your observation.
So this is, again, in women's favor of doing the work on yourself to be better at managing and being aware of your emotions, expressing yourself, knowing what you want, what you need, and working that into your communication skills. But even just going off to the bookstore or going to an event on that subject and being proactive about it, it could be reactive about it. But I mean, generally it seems like this, I got to give people points for buying books, or just going to lectures or whatever it is on the subject to make themselves better. Yeah. So, and I always wonder, why are these guys not coming to these events? Because there's so many women they could talk to. I mean, just even from that point of view. But anyways, that's another subject.
I think it's fear.
Yeah.
I think fear. We live in a very fearful society with a lot of need to be perfect, which is not... it's just a fantasy. It's not real. And if I can elaborate 1 second on what you said, I believe that reading books is very helpful. I just want to share with you that in my practice, what I have noticed is that, yes, reading books is very helpful. Educating ourselves, I think, is essential. But when we talk about friendships, when we talk about relationships, the best place to enhance those skills. The best place to put in practice these concepts that we're learning and these skills that we're developing is really in the battlefield. And the battlefield, I don't like the term because it has a bad connotation. I don't like war. But the best place to practice that is in the real world, which is when we connect with people. So we can read 10 books, but if we don't share the experience of connecting with other people and being good in developing that skill, the books are going to help theoretically, but the real stuff happens when we connect. And I love what you said, going to events, going to conference, meeting people.
Going outside your comfort zone.
Of course.
Yeah. You made me think of men talking about sports in order to connect and bond versus women. Have you found, as I have, that men seem to talk about sports a lot in order to bond, and I always wonder how many men are actually interested in sports versus, they're with some guys and they're already talking about sports and they kind of get to know sports and the teams and the players because they want to be in on the bonding process.
Of course.
But how much is it actually arbitrary? And because I don't actually talk about sports, I'm not in that club, and I've never been, I feel like an alien. But I'm okay with that because I don't have to talk about sports talk. But have you ever talked about this with any of your clients that they feel like, oh, they got to talk about sports with their guy friends because that's a bonding thing and they're not necessarily into sports? Because that's always been my curiosity.
Absolutely. And let me expand a little bit the topics. It's not only sports. It's cars.
Oh, cars. Of course, cars.
and it's work. So for us men, it's very important to prove, to demonstrate that we're successful, that we're strong. And regrettably, I mean, this is my belief, and I don't have any problem putting out there my beliefs. This doesn't create bonding. The fact that you know who scored yesterday and okay, fantastic, but I agree with you. That is not going to create that sense of a connection. That, remember what I mentioned at the beginning, we need to use more often the antidotes to deal with failure, shame, rejection, isolation, and loneliness, because those are the killers. So when we prove that we're very good in what we do because we were promoted and we got a fantastic bonus and we have a car that it's four-wheel drive or whatever, that does not necessarily fit with the antidotes that I was talking about. Those antidotes that create this bonding is the expression of emotions, is the sharing of activities, right? And I mean, knowing that you are interested in deeper relationships. Well, yeah, you can be shouting and screaming in an event for your favorite team or whatever. And don't take me wrong, I'm not criticizing it, but it will never create the same type of connection and the depth, particularly.
Yeah.
Of a connection, that when you talk about how you're doing, how you're feeling, what are the challenges that you're facing in life, and going there, right?
Yeah, I can't even think of good segues to go from cars or sports to something a little bit more meaningful because they're so different, But it's interesting that you mentioned that there are people that admit that, and so it's that vulnerability thing. And of course, I can't help but to think of alcohol being a problem eventually if you need to you have a beer buzz or alcohol buzz in order to now feel like you can be open and connect. And I've noticed that with male friends, that for some to bond or to be more open about their life situation with their wife or their girlfriend or whatever their situation is, they have to kind of not be drunk, but they have to be sort of a buzz.
Stimulated.
Yeah. And that takes time. And so we have to talk about other stuff or watch a movie first, whatever it is. And I just, I guess I tend to not gravitate towards people that need that anymore. Because I realized that other men don't need to. And I've found men that are just as open and just as vulnerable as women are.
Of course.
And don't need that, and I don't know if guys know that there's men out there like that. Maybe they don't.
I don't know as well, but there are, and there are a lot. and the good news is that it's increasing. And I love the point that you mentioned about alcohol. It not only helps people in general to be more open to share what is going on inside, or topics that it's very difficult to hear in a conversation with men, like, something I'm having some problems with my wife. No, you don't want others to know that. But it's very interesting, because any form of addiction really what shows. And there are addictions that are very socially accepted, like work, for example. If you're a workaholic, that could even be rewarded. But any sort of addiction, any type of an addiction tendency, really what it reveals is the need to numb something that it's uncomfortable, something that it's painful. So a lot of work on that.
Yeah, for sure. So the only other thing I was going to ask on that, if women are better than men, friendship than men, are they better friends to men and women? I mean, this overlaps a little bit of the other question of men and women being friends and everything like that. But does that mean that they're a better candidate for both sexes in a way? Or is that too much we can talk about on the other topic?
Wow. It's I think it's a complex question. It's a very good question, but it's a little bit of a complex one, because I will venture to say, if someone is more open for that, if someone is more comfortable to do that, and the ingredients, as we have talked before, of a good friendship are depth and connection and all the things that we had been talking about, I believe, I will not say they are better, because it sounds a little bit judgmental. I will just say they are better suited.
Okay.
I believe.
Okay.
Not because they are better per se, not just that they are better prepared. They have more resources on that end, and they have gone a little bit further. And if you add to that the nature of bonding and this nurturing part, etc., well, then yes, I believe. I believe they are.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that we wrapped up this question as well. So thank you so much, Jose.
Again, my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, and I'll see you on the next episode.
My pleasure.
Okay, thank you. Hey guys, if you enjoyed this podcast, then please like and subscribe, and please help to support this project by donating on our Patreon page. Thanks.